create one. We're going to have a 5-minute break, and then we are going to go over how to actually do a journey map using dummy data with actual scenarios and personas for you to choose from, and for you to plot those data points into the storyline. We are also going to have some time to cover any questions that you may have, as I mentioned earlier. So just a reminder, this is a beginner level overview of customer journey mapping. Today, you're just going to get a taste of what journey mapping is all about and how valuable it is. However, this is a very in-depth activity for design teams that can take up to several hours. So like I said, today you are getting a taste of what customer journey mapping is. And then also we'll be recording. So you'll have access to this recording on YouTube. So let's dive in. All right, so I'm going to start off with this video by Peter Bennett. It is one of my favorites.
Or Bodoni for the typographically hysterical amongst us. One of the threads that seems to have come through loud and clear in the last couple of days is this need to reconcile what the big wants, the big being the organization, the system, the country, and what the small wants, the individual, the person, and how do you bring those two things together? Charlie Ledbetter yesterday, I thought, talked very articulately about this need to bring consumers, to bring people into the process of creating things. And that's what I want to talk about today. So bringing together the small to help facilitate and create the big, I think is something that we believe in, something I believe in, and something that we kind of bring to life through what we do at IDEO. I call this first chapter, for the Brits in the room, the blinding glimpse of the bleeding obvious. Often the good ideas are so staring at you right in the face that you kind of miss them. And I think a lot of times what we do is just sort of hold the mirror up to our clients and sort of go, duh, you know, look what's really going on. And rather than talk about it in the theory, I think I'm just going to show you an example. We were asked by a large healthcare system in Minnesota to describe to them what their patient experience was. And I think they were expecting, they'd worked with lots of consultants before, I think they were expecting some kind of hideous org chart with thousands of bubbles and systemic this, that, and the other, and all kinds of mind-mappy stuff. Or even worse, some kind of ghastly death by PowerPoint thing with wow charts and all kinds of, you know, God knows whatever. The first thing we actually shared with them was this. I'll play this into your eyeballs completely dissolve. This is 59 seconds into the film. This is 1:59. 3 minutes 19. I think something happens. I think a head may appear in a second. 5 minutes 10. 5 minutes 58. 6 minutes 20. We showed them the whole cut and they were all completely, what is this? And the point is, when you lie in a hospital bed all day, all you do is look at the roof, and it's a really shitty experience. And just putting yourself in the position of the patient, this is Christian who works with us at IDEO, he just lay in the hospital bed and kind of stared at the polystyrene ceiling tiles for a really long time. That's what it's like to be a patient in the hospital. And they were sort of, you know, blinding glimpse of bleeding obvious. Oh my goodness. So looking at the situation from the point of view of the person out, as opposed to the traditional position of the organization in, was for these guys quite a revelation. And so that was a really catalytic thing for them. So they snapped into action. They said, okay, it's not about systemic change. It's not about huge, ridiculous things that we need to do. It's about tiny things that can make a huge amount of difference. So we started with them prototyping some really little things that we could do to have a huge amount of impact. The first thing we did was we took a little bicycle mirror and we band-aided it here onto a gurney, a hospital trolley, so that when you were wheeled around by a nurse or by a doctor, you could actually have a conversation with them. You could kind of see them in your rearview mirror. So it created a tiny human interaction. Very small example of something that they could do. interestingly, the nurses themselves sort of snapped into action, said, okay, we embrace this. What can we do? The first thing they did was they decorated the ceiling. So I thought I showed this to my mother recently. I think my mother now thinks that I'm some sort of interior decorator. That's what I do for a living, sort of Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen. Not particularly the world's best design solution for those of us who are real sort of hardcore designers, but nonetheless, a fabulous empathic solution for people. Things that they started doing themselves, like changing the floor going into the patient's room so that it signified this is my room, this is my personal space, was a really interesting sort of design solution to the problem. So you went from public space to private space. And another idea, again, that came from one of the nurses, which I love, was they took traditional sort of corporate whiteboards, then they put them on one wall of the patient's room and they put this sticker there, so that what you could actually do was go into the room and write messages to the person who was sick in that room, which was lovely. So tiny, tiny, tiny solutions that made a huge amount of impact. I thought that was a really, really nice example. So this is not particularly a new idea, kind of seeing opportunities in things that are around you and kind of snapping and turning them into a solution. There's a history of invention based around this. I'm going to read this because I want to get
All right, so in this video, what Peter is essentially arguing is that good ideas are often staring at us right in the face, and yet we miss them. We sometimes overlook things that are so obvious, which is why he really emphasizes the importance of paying attention to the details in design. So by observing the world around us and considering the human element, as in this example with the hospital patients, we can come up with innovative and effective design solutions that simultaneously soothe our users, both their latent and their overt needs. Sorry about that. All right, so building the foundations for user journey maps. As designers, we don't just dive into journey maps. We have a process that we go through. I'm gonna speak to the Double Diamond, which is a framework that we use in design thinking and in my classroom. We start off with the generative research phase, and this is where we really establish a strong foundation for mapping our users' journeys. We start off by developing interview questions. One of the many methods of research that we conduct are user interviews, and this is where we try to craft open-ended, insightful questions that really guide our research. The idea is that we are able to gather rich data about our target audience. We have in our approach, we are able to gather an understanding of their goals, their frustrations, their wants, their needs, so that we can really start to understand our target audience's mindset and the behaviors that drive them to make the decisions that they do. We then move on to create personas. And with these personas, we have scenarios, and these are realistic scenarios of our target audience. And these are everyday interactions that they might encounter, and it really helps us understand their needs and motivations in context. We then move on. And again, this is all before we actually dive into journey mapping. We analyze our research findings. We synthesize and organize our research findings through an activity we call affinity mapping. This is where we identify those patterns and themes and those key user needs as it relates to our target audience's thoughts, their feelings, their pain points, and again, their motivations. So this is really what sets the stage for us to be able to visualize the user journey and then identify those opportunities to improve our target audience's experience. So, as I mentioned, the double diamond. This is one of my favorite quotes from Jesse Garrett, who is a founder and designer. He really wants to emphasize the impact of experience design as it relates to some of our most human wants and needs. So experience design is the design of anything, independent of medium or across media, with human experience as an explicit outcome and human engagement as an explicit goal. Okay, so let's unpack this because there's a lot here. Designing anything independent of medium. So experience design is not limited to a specific format. It can be applied to physical products. It can be applied to digital experiences such as websites and apps. It can be applied to services and even physical spaces such as stores or museums, or even sometimes a combination of these. So what does he mean by with human experience as an explicit outcome? So the core focus of experience design is on the user experience, on the user's experience. So how they interact with and feel about something. So it goes beyond functionality. It considers that emotional and that cognitive aspect of interaction. So he really encourages a well-designed experience because it not only fulfills a need, but it also it encourages and fosters engagement. So it keeps users interested, it keeps them motivated, and it has them coming back for more. So here is the double diamond. This is a common model that's used to understand customers and their problems, and also explore creative and innovative ways to offer solutions. It's an excellent framework, and that first diamond, that first quarter of the double diamond is the discover phase. And in this phase, our role is to really try to look at the world in a fresh way, in a very experimental, exploratory, and a generative way. And this is where we start to notice new things and gather insights and really start to think about the possibilities of all the data that we're gathering. And then we jump into the define phase, and this is the second quarter, and it represents the definition stage. So this is where, as designers, we try to make sense of all the possibilities that we were able to identify in the discovery phase. We're able to make sense of, or start to make sense of, all the data that we've gathered. This is where we start to think about what really matters. What should we act on first, and what actually is feasible for our organizations, given our financial resources, our social resources, and our human resources. So we really start to think about what is actually possible. Okay, and then you really want in this phase, the goal is really to develop a clear creative brief that frames your fundamental design challenge. And then we move on to that third quarter, and that third quarter marks a period of development. And this is where solutions and concepts are created. This is where we prototype. This is where we test. And this is where we also iterate on our designs based off actual feedback from our target audience. So this is really a process of trial and error, and it helps us as designers to improve and refine our ideas. And then finally, we have the deliver stage, and this is the final quarter of the double diamond. This is where the resulting project, whether it's a product, or a service, for example, this is where things are finalized, this is where things are produced, and this is where things are launched. All right, so let's see how well y'all have been paying attention. This is just a fun question for you to answer in the chat. Where does journey mapping fit into the double diamond? Start to put our critical thinking hats on and see where we can pin customer journey mapping. Define. Wow, okay. Lots of defines. Okay, I see y'all. All right. So I'll answer that question in a few. But first, let's dive into what the discover phase actually entails. And this really involves us as designers considering everything about our customer. We want to consider everything about our customer with no constraints to work towards, because we're really trying to build empathy here. This is by no means a comprehensive list of all the research methods, but these are some methods, commonly used methods, that fall under this phase. So all these methods of research are essentially a means to really understand who our target audience is, and like I said, what their mindset and behaviors essentially are. And then we have the define phase. So this is the phase that involves using convergent thinking. What do I mean by convergent thinking? This is where we start to analyze and choose what the best option is. We start to narrow down ideas to a feasible solution. This is where we really focus on deepening our understanding of the problem space and really honing in on what to prioritize. So when do we journey map? So the majority of y'all said define, and that is absolutely correct. So before diving into designing the blueprint or mapping the behavior of our product for any new or existing product or service, we make an effort to really define what the problem is. So that initial phase of discovery is crucial for us to really understand what we want to prioritize, where the opportunities lie. And this is where journey mapping falls under. So this is where we have synthesized all the data that we've gathered in the initial phases, in the discovery phase. Our teams have come together and have prioritized, not only have defined who our target audience is, what their pain points are, what their goals are, what their frustrations are. And then we start the process of actively empathizing by using actual data that we've gathered from the research to really be able to define those potential opportunities that we're going to spend the next sprint, for instance, focusing our cross-functional teams' efforts around. All right, so customer experience. Let's talk about the value of UX and what the cost of not investing in UX could potentially cost your business. So PwC surveyed a representative sample of 15,000 people from 12 countries. They did this via an online survey and in-field interviews. 4,000 respondents were from the US, and the remaining 11,000 were from a sampling of countries around the globe. And here's what they found. Bad experience drives customers away fast. So this statement really, really emphasizes the fragility of customer loyalty and the severe consequences of a poor customer experience. You're probably asking, well, how fast? Well, 1 in 3 consumers say that they will walk away from a brand they love after just one bad experience. So tough crowd. Imagine dating this person. In Latin America, nearly half of consumers would do the same. So even tougher crowd. All right. So obviously, I may be a little biased here, but enough companies understand enough companies and organizations understand that experience is the strategy. This really, this is essentially saying that while many companies understand that customer experience is crucial to success, the majority are falling short of delivering on this promise. There's a clear opportunity for businesses to differentiate themselves by really prioritizing and improving customer experiences. inside the customer experience disconnect. So this statement here highlights a significant gap between our customers' expectations and then the company's performance. So while a large majority of consumers recognize the importance of customer experience in their purchasing decisions, the reality is that most companies are failing to deliver on this expectation. And this discrepancy represents a substantial opportunity for businesses to really differentiate themselves. They can do this by just providing that exceptional customer experience by really talking to their users and hearing their voices and prioritizing their needs and concerns. So 73% of all people point to customer experience as an important factor in their purchasing decisions, and yet only 49% of US consumers say that companies provide a good customer experience today. That's a huge market to tap into. Okay, what do people value most in customer service? So nearly 80% of American consumers, as you can see here, point to speed. They point to convenience, they point to knowledgeable service and a helpful service. These are the most important elements of a positive customer experience. All right, revenue through customer experience. So this statement really directly correlates the customer experience to revenue. It emphasizes that customers are willing to pay a premium for a convenience, for convenience and a positive experience. A strong customer experience is more impactful than advertising, and a friendly and welcoming atmosphere can significantly influence purchasing decisions and one's willingness to pay more. Overall, these statistics here demonstrate that investing in customer experience is not just a cost, but really a strategic investment that can yield significant financial returns. All right, I see the chat popping off. Very exciting. All right, so all that is to say the gap is clear. So when you look at what customers expect versus the satisfaction they're actually getting, this here is not a pretty picture. But by closing that gap, we are able to find that sweet spot where technology complements the human element of customer experience without, say, creating new frustrations. This is where the opportunity is. Across all the industries surveyed, an average of about 48% of US consumers point to friendliness, that welcoming service, and this is really what defines success in any industry. All right, so here are some case studies that point to the value of not only investing in UX, but really creating those customer journey maps to empathize with your target audience and really identify those areas of opportunity for you to innovate. So Brainshark is they're a leading sales readiness platform provider, and they help their clients improve their sales effectiveness through training, coaching, and content that they need to make the most of. They engaged the heart of the customer to map their client's implementation journey. So the time from when the client purchases the software, rolls it out to their sales teams, and then begins fully using the platform. So they mapped out this entire journey, and by following a deliberate process to map their customers' implementation journeys, Brainshark was able to reduce the time to value, and which is when the client starts really getting the benefit, and they were able to do this by about 25%. They were able to influence product priorities to incorporate specific needs voiced by their actual customers. They were able to provide stronger guidance around their clients' business processes. And this not only created a better implementation, but in altogether improved sales readiness program. So a lot of benefits here. Not to mention they were able to better demonstrate their ROI in ways that better align with how clients recognize their brand. So pluses all around here. Here's another example of the YMCA. The YMCA of the Greater Twin Cities specifically, so the fourth largest Y association in the world, knew that it earned high marks for programming and service and for service overall, but they also recognized that their customers would be able to thrive more and maintain their health would thrive, and they would be able to maintain their memberships in essence their loyalty to the Y if they learn more about the early stages of their wellness journeys. So questions that they were looking to answer were what led people to join the Y, what were their needs and expectations, what were their health goals, what was their general awareness, what was their health EQ or health IQ rather, and what more could the Y be doing to encourage them. So they wanted a customer-focused look at their member retention, and that would essentially provide valid and valuable insights to them as an organization, and that would allow them to think about what to prioritize. So they identified and they gathered a group of about 20 people, and this included a field team and senior executives. They tapped the best positioned folks to really ensure the success of a post-project initiative. They reviewed existing research and trends. They shared their own experiences, their observations, and then they also took the time to really generate tons of hypotheses. By doing this, they were able to identify the parameters of the journey and the segment of customers to include. And after careful consideration, they chose to focus on millennials as new customers, single and married members in their 20s and 30s, with or without children. The journey would really encompass 4 branch visits and a wellness consultation. It was over the course of a 3-week period at 4 typical suburban branches. So in total, 33 participants. They were able to recruit, and they were able to enroll in this study. So they discovered that this wellness consultation was the most common pain point. Here's a quote from an actual user. "It was really eye-opening to hear about the frustration caused by the gap between expectation and reality." So customers believed that it had the potential and didn't really know what to expect. So as a result, they came up with their own ideas about what it would include. Then they came away disappointed when it actually didn't. So the content of the consultation varied by branch and trainer, and this added to the confusion. The customers wanted help essentially coming up with a fitness plan with nutritional tips and baseline measurements. But instead, they left feeling that the main purpose of this consultation was to sell personal training packages. So the result were both long-term strategies and quick wins. So simple but impactful changes that could potentially yield a high ROI. So they were able to address a lot of these issues that came up in their research study, essentially. And they found that it was easier to implement once they had an idea of what their customers, what their target audience is essentially struggling with. All right, so how do we create a journey map? So first of all, what is a journey map? We've been talking about journey maps here, the value of journey maps. Well, a customer journey map is a visualization of the process that a person goes through in order to accomplish a goal. It's used for understanding and addressing customer needs and pain points. So you could think of the customer journey map as a roadmap for your customer's experience. It shows you all the steps a customer takes when interacting with your business, from learning about you to buying your product, and beyond. So it really helps you see things. It really helps you see where things are going smoothly and where there might be bumps in the road. Here's a relatable analogy. So imagine you're planning a trip. A map helps you see the best route. It helps you see potential challenges and places to stop along the way. And a customer journey map does the same thing essentially for your customers. So how do we create a customer journey map? Let's watch this video.
How to create a journey map. It's always good to start with a pen and paper workshop. And if you can, include your customers or multiple departments in these workshops. If you'd like, we have workshop templates for journey maps on our website for free. So here are the steps to follow when building out a basic journey map. First, choose a scope. Journey maps can have various scales and scopes, from a high-level map showing an end-to-end experience to a more detailed maps focusing on one step of a higher-level journey to very detailed step-by-step descriptions of micro-interactions. For an example, let's take the case of a mortgage loan. A journey map for a mortgage loan experience could show 30 years of that experience, including everything from searching to a house, signing contracts, living in the house, and making loan payments until the loan is paid off. Or another journey map can zoom in to just one of these steps to illustrate only the experience of searching and comparing mortgage loans. Another journey map could zoom in even further and illustrate a 1-hour consultation. First, decide how far you want to zoom in or out of an experience. The second step is choosing a persona. You have to choose a main actor for your journey. A journey map always focuses on the experiences of one main actor, such as a group of customers or employees. Some journey maps also combine various perspectives into one map. For example, comparing different customer groups or comparing customer experiences with those of employees. At any rate, to get started, choose a persona that you want to follow in the journey. Third, steps. A step is any experience the main actor has, such as an interaction with another person, a machine, or a digital interface. But steps can also be activities such as walking or waiting. The level of detail of each step depends on the overall scale of a journey map. As a little hint, to get started with steps, decide what is the crucial part of the experience, and then ask yourself, what happens before this, and what happens after? This will help you get going and building out each step. Here are the steps to follow when building out a basic journey map. First, choose a scope. Journey maps can have various scales and scopes. From a high map could zoom in even further and illustrate a 1-hour consultation. First, decide how far you want to zoom in or out of an experience. The second step is choosing a persona. You have to choose a main actor for your journey. A journey map always focuses on the experiences of one main actor, such as a group of customers or employees. Some journey maps also combine various perspectives into one map. For example, comparing different customer groups or comparing customer experiences with those of employees. At any rate, to get started, choose a persona that you want to follow in the journey. Third, steps. A step is any experience the main actor has, such as an interaction with another person, a machine, or a digital interface, but steps can also be activities such as walking or waiting. The level of detail of each step depends on the overall scale of a journey map. As a little hint, to get started with steps, decide what is the crucial part of the experience, and then ask yourself what happens before this and what happens after. This will help you get going in building out each step. Fourth, lanes. You can add more lanes to your journey map to show or analyze different parts of the experience. For example, you can add a row of images below each step to show visually what is happening. This kind of lane with images is called a storyboard. Or you can expand on each step with more text descriptions. We call this a text lane. If you'd like to look at the emotional journey of an experience, you can add an emotional journey lane as well. Or if you want to start to create a list of ideas or jobs to be done for your organization, you could also do this with a text lane. Check out our cheat sheet on the different types of lanes you can add to a journey map. Of course, lanes can always be customized to the type of project you're working on. Fifth, save and edit. Smaply can help you to quickly transfer the journey map that you created during a workshop with pen and paper into a polished PDF or PowerPoint presentation. If you're curious on how to create stakeholder maps, personas, or even get started.
All right, so let's break that down. How do we create a customer journey map? First, we need to do our homework. This means talking to your customers and your team members, asking your customers about their experiences, and then really getting insights from your colleagues about what they see as well. Next, you want to figure out who you're designing for. Identify that persona. This is where you create that detailed picture of your ideal customer. You want to imagine the different stages of their journey with your product or with your service, and then you want to think about what happens before they buy or while they're using your product or service, and then what happens after. Once you have that, you want to dive into your customer's emotions. So what are they thinking? What are they feeling at each stage? This is where your research will really come in handy. So use what you have learned from your customers to really understand their emotional journey using the actual data provided by your users. And then remember, a customer journey map is just a tool. But it's a powerful tool that really helps you see your business through your customers' eyes and their experience. So by really understanding their lived experience, you can see why you're better situated to create better better products and useful, relevant, and better products and services in general. Okay, so here are the 4 types of journey maps. The type and focus of a journey map could depend on the audience that you're communicating with and the stage of the project. So it's best practice is to only use future journeys when a retrospective has been used. Oftentimes future journey maps are I see them quite a lot because it allows organizations to really start to think about how they want to innovate or how they want to evolve their product using that direct feedback from their target audience. And then we also have another, this is actually my favorite form of a customer journey map, and that's a service blueprint. And this really allows you to see what's going on. There's a backstage in terms of, or the back end of an organization, who all is involved to facilitate the use of a product or service. And then obviously we have the actors at the front of the stage here that represent our target audience. So it kind of shows how a service or a product operates systemically or holistically. Okay, so journey mapping isn't about creating fancy, elaborate artifacts. It's about the journey of discovery. So we do it to provide insights, inspiration, and hypotheses. So as you saw, journey maps can be elaborate and they can be visually attractive, but don't get distracted by this. Your journey map, the idea is really to have as much substance and meaning and data points on there as possible so you can make the most informed decisions or evidence-based decisions. And then conducting user research. So before we jump into building, we have to define who we're designing for. That's our persona. The type of we have to think about the type of research that we're going to conduct, whether it's interviews, surveys, ethnographic studies, or focus groups. We really have to decide what methodology is best to extract the type of data that we're looking for. And this will essentially allow us to identify those opportunities via their motivations, our target audience's motivations and pain points. So here is what a journey map looks like. Obviously, lots and lots of data points here. With this one, there are affinity mapping stickies that have directly been taken from whatever affinity mapping tool was used here and dumped into these lanes, essentially, that represent categories of data points that are relevant to our target audience. So here are some more examples. This is the more high level example by the Nielsen Norman Group. It walks us through the journey of emotional Eric buying a car and the sort of the timeline of his behaviors and actions and what he's thinking and feeling along the way. Also includes his expectations. And what you will typically see with a journey map like this is a section down at the bottom where opportunities are also prioritized. Here we have Rachel Alvarez. She is a product manager. And this, if you look at that bottom section, you can see that there are opportunities that are already laid out based off of her day-to-day itinerary and who all and what all is involved, and the tools that she uses along the way to ensure that she's able to do an effective job as a product manager. This is an example. This is another example. This is more high level and conceptual, and just mostly walks you through sort of the emotional journey of this target user. All right, so now let's take a 5-minute break, and when we return, we have we're going to dive into customer journey mapping. So let's take 5. All right. Welcome back. Okay, we're obviously glad you're here. In case you were wondering about GA, we are at the forefront of tech talent development, and we're specializing in today's most in-demand skills. We've been in the game for 10 plus years, and we are a parent company of the Deco Group. We partner with businesses all over the world to fill their talent. We have many grads, 16,000. We've helped over 16,000 GA graduates start a new career in tech, with over 80% landing jobs within 8 months of graduation. So a little bit about us in case you were wondering. So let's dive back in. So here are tools to create a customer journey maps. The tools that you use will depend on your organization and what they decide on. And a lot of times, my students and I will use either the Nielsen-Norman templates, or we'll use a FigJam, not only to synthesize our research and design in. Today, we're going to use the tried and true Nielsen-Norman template. And this is a helpful template. When you can refer back to this if you get stuck. You don't have to follow this exactly, but it's a helpful it's helpful as a checklist for what should be included in a timeline journey map. First of all, I'd like to point out the separation of doing, thinking, and saying here. The point of difference between these three things I really want to highlight, because they could be opportunities for resolution. So this is what we're going to be using today. And your challenge is to redesign the ground experience at an international airport. We mostly all have been there. And in this challenge, we want to consider how to solve for loud children, those delayed flights, and boring downtime. So first, we're going to talk about what we learned from our interviews. So this is assuming we have done our due diligence, have gone through the generative research phase, conducted interviews, surveys, ethnographies. We've maybe have done diary studies, and now we have all our insights, or we've synthesized all our findings, and the insights that we've come up with from our interviews are the following. While waiting for the flight, I try watching the show on my phone, but I'm always worried about not having enough charge for my flight. Also, there are always lots of kids running around in my space. Another insight. I don't like crowded places. On the weekends, the airport is really busy and hectic, so I end up being really stressed while traveling. I don't like that flight prices can be so different. It's a pain to shop around at a bunch of places because there are so many airlines and the prices change from day to day. Okay, you have these insights on hand. Now, here are your personas. These are your personas and scenarios. You're going to choose one. So we have Asha. She's the group vacationer who values time spent with friends, family, and other travelers. She loves to plan group vacations and is trying to connect with her friends leaving from the same airport. Okay, a social vacationer. And then we have Kai, who's an adventure lover that values being active. Kai uses Google Maps to track the location he wants to visit on his trip. He has a hard time sitting still during long travel days. He sounds a little impatient, and he prefers to pack light, but often has a lot of gear with him, hence the adventure. And then we have Naomi, who's a messy mom. She values peace and quiet and is traveling with 3 kids. She's always looking for ways to keep her kids entertained and out of other passengers' hair during the airport experience. Okay, so these are the 3 personas. You can choose one. We're going to share a link to the Google Sheets that you can make a copy of and edit and add your changes to. First, let's quickly walk through this customer journey map specifically. I'm looking at the very top where we have persona, scenario, user expectation. We'll call this zone A, and this lens really provides constraints for the map by assigning one, our persona, so who, and two, the scenario to be examined. What exactly is being examined? And then we have zone B, and this is the heart of the map. This is where we visualize the experience. It's usually aligned across chunkable phases of the journey. And then we have actions, thoughts, and emotional experience. And this is really the journey this is really the meat of the journey, or this is the most fruitful information for us, and we really want to take the time to pack this with quotes, so anecdotes, so this will really give us really help paint the picture. And then zone C is essentially that bottom part, the output, and the output should vary based on your business goal. And for this one, there isn't necessarily a business goal beyond the challenge itself. This is very exploratory. I want you to have fun with this. I'm going to provide the data for each. I'm going to provide dummy data for each persona and scenario. And I want you to have fun just putting yourself in the shoes of hopefully maybe the one that resonates most with you as a traveler. Maybe that'll help you get into a better walk in the shoes of one of these personas. So the idea is that you are able to, that bottom part is going to be able to describe the insights and pain points that you discovered and the opportunities that you want to focus on going forward. So that being said, let's open it up in Google Sheets. Go to File, please make a copy. Don't add your changes. All right, like that thumbs up. Please add your changes to a copy of this file. And notice the sheets or the tabs at the bottom. They also indicate the specific persona and scenario that you might want to focus on. So please also make a copy of that and add your changes there. And with that being said, how many of us, okay, personas in slide is now available. Okay. Okay, excellent. So I am going to start the timer here. This is the other thing I want you to consider before you dive into this. So you were creating this journey map for your users' airport experience. I want you to really think about, I want you to consider what it's like traveling to the airport security and waiting experience, the boarding the plane itself, and then their emotions before, during, and especially after the journey. So we have a lot of dummy data that you can also use to help you with these considerations. Okay, I'm going to start the timer now. We will give you 10 minutes to not complete this exercise, start this exercise, because like I said, journey mapping can take several hours, depending on the breadth and depth of your research. And so this is really just to give you a taste of how to plot your data points into the essentially the narrative of your persona. All right, I'm going to give y'all about another 5 minutes. I see some of you had trouble getting into Google Sheets with all the traffic. So let's give y'all another 5 minutes. Hopefully you're able to get a taste of journey mapping. All right. So time's up, but you can definitely, we've equipped you with all the resources you need to continue filling out this customer journey map. I encourage you to really take the time to complete this map to give you a sense of how to start thinking about what it means to empathize with your target audience using actual data provided by your target audience. After we customer journey map as an organization or at an organization with ideally a cross-functional team, we rank those opportunities. And the goal here is to maximize the value of our product while minimizing the effort, the human resources and financial resources that it could potentially cost us as an organization or business. So when we say high and low impact, we're referring to the impact on both the user and the business side. So these are features that we as an organization need to prioritize. In other words, jobs that need to be done for this next sprint. The prioritization matrix is a fancy way of saying a 2x2 matrix, which is what you see here on the screen. And this really allows product managers and design teams to come together and outline the expected impact that's associated with a given feature. So how much value does the feature bring to the product or user? And then how much time, resources, or complexity is involved in implementing a feature. Now, generally speaking, the features that fall in quadrant 1 take priority over those in other quadrants. These are your what we call low-hanging fruit, and they deliver significant value with minimal investment. These features should be prioritized first. Looking over at the second quadrant, this is what we would do next. And break into small pieces. So these are features that have great potential, but then require significant resources. They're important for our long-term success as an organization or as a company, but they might need to be broken down into smaller, more manageable pieces to tackle effectively. So they're a little more high effort than we were anticipating, essentially. And then we have quadrant 3, and this is where we want to proceed carefully. These are features that consume a lot of our human resources, our social resources, and our financial resources without providing much value. So they should be approached as cautiously as possible and potentially reevaluated or entirely eliminated. And then we have quadrant 4, and these are the features that we just avoid because they offer us a little value and they they require minimal effort. So they are often considered nice to haves, but can be deferred or eliminated. So as designers, our priority is really the impact to the users and the business, and sort of a gut feel of what takes less effort. So once we plot this out on a matrix, it's an easier conversation to determine what will be implemented. And because these things may look seemingly easy, to us as designers at times, our developers are quick to tell us that, hey, actually, that's going to take a lot of resources to implement. So it's really important that this is a great document for bringing cross-functional teams together and really having those tough conversations and really fleshing out what is feasible. All right, so here is a template for you to use for the data that you finish plotting on that customer journey map. You can use this to start to think about which features make the most sense to this fictitious airline. And then I want you to remember that journey maps are living documents. And I say this because these documents are always changing. So imagine that you create a map today. In a few months, your customers might find new ways to use your product, or your company might launch a new feature. These changes mean that your customers will change too. So that's why we need to update the journey map regularly. That's why we need personas are also living documents. It's what we need to, they evolve over time as our product evolves. They have a symbiotic relationship. So obviously this is going to impact the user journey. And this is something that I want you to keep in mind. I want you to think of it like a garden. So you need to keep tending to it, adding new plants and removing weeds to keep it as healthy, as possible and growing. And the same goes for your journey map. Keep it fresh with new information, with new insights. And by keeping your journey map up to date, you can really make sure that it's always a helpful tool for understanding not only your customers, but also getting a sense of what to prioritize as a business. All right, congrats. So you made it. You should all pat yourselves on the back for taking an hour and a half of your day to learn with us here at GA. The fun's not over though. We have a Q&A and we have some quick reminders, so don't leave yet. We also have a special offer for y'all and would love your feedback. I'm going to pass the mic over to Jeremy.
Sorry, I know I'm on mute. There we go. So thank you guys, everyone, for joining us. I did see a whole bunch of things into the chat. I just want to make sure that you guys can see the resources tab, because the personas, the insights in that previous slide that she just shared is all in the resources tab. Give me 1 second. Sorry, seasonal allergies. Didn't know that was a thing until I became an adult. But yeah, if anything, all of those resources are in the resources tab under documents. So you'll see the personas image, the insights image, as well as the journey map rank image. So you guys can basically download that as well. So if anything, let me go ahead and share my screen, because we do have some things that we want to talk about with GA. Give me 1 second. There we go. And we basically have an offer for you guys. So if anything, you'll receive like $1,500 off of boot camp, as well as a $500 off the short course. And let me go ahead and pull that up for you. There you go. You might see a whole bunch of tabs on my screen. Don't be afraid. Doing a lot of work in the background. But yeah, if you, as a thank you for joining us today, we're offering $1,500 off of a boot camp and $500 off of a short course in your local currency if you enroll by September 30th. So basically, all you have to do is just mention this workshop and that discount to admissions, especially if you want to enroll in one of our boot camps or short courses. That's all pretty much that you have to do. And then from there, all we have to do is talk about GA. What can we learn at GA? You can learn anything from product design or product management, UX design, data analysis, data science, AI. For example, we just implemented some more AI courses and workshops. We're also doing coding and development in digital marketing. So those are some of the things that you can definitely learn, especially here at GA. I'm also a product of GA as far as the UX design course. So most of this stuff that you learned here today, I learned on my end as well. And then we want to talk about what is our skilling solution for our workshops and short courses and boot camps. So we do offer workshops, and I'm mainly the person who works on the workshop side for everything. So we have AI for data, workplace productivity, and leaders. We also do have a workshop for UX design in Figma. So if you ever want to tune into that, most of those workshops are 2-day evening workshops, 3 hours each day, or 3 hours on both days. And you'll pretty much get the same experience that you will get in a short course, experiencing those 2-day workshops. And also, if you use the code HOTSKILLS200, you will receive $200 off of that workshop. So basically, the workshop will be $150. And then for our short courses, they can range from like different times and different schedules and everything, but you'll get an in-depth, more in-depth personal look into what it's like to be a UX designer. You'll learn pretty much all the things, including customer journey mapping, and all the things that, even in different topics. And of course, you have your we have the graph here that shows how much each workshop is basically covering, or how much the workshop is, and how many hours are involved in it. And then the boot camps, of course, are much more in depth. You will leave with a portfolio piece, especially my portfolio, even just dealing with the UX design portion. Loved every bit of it. So those are some of the things that you can experience here at GA between workshops, short courses, and boot camps. Right now, you're experiencing the free class version. The main difference is the amount of information that you're taking in, but also you'll be able to come on camera, on microphone to speak with the instructor, and you'll have class sessions after hours as well. And if you ever need to connect with career services, they are there for you as well. Also, in the meantime, I do want to have a big thank you to Dribble for partnering with us for this event, because it's an amazing website. It's an amazing product, especially like I said, I use it, especially if I need inspiration or want to connect with people in the community. So definitely go to dribble.com. I did post that link earlier. I'll make sure that I posted it again before we hop off. And then also, this is the QR code for our feedback survey. We know you guys have a lot of feedback, but also you guys will receive a copy of the recording in the slide decks to make sure that you guys can revisit this at any time that you want. That link, the recording link, will be there right there for you. Just to make sure that yeah, so I'm making sure I'm checking the chat. So it's Hot Skills 200 if you want to connect with us for a workshop, and you'll receive $200 off. So I'll make sure that I pop that into the chat as well. Hot Skills 200. And you can use that at checkout. So yeah, definitely thank you to Dribble for that. That is our feedback survey. So if you guys want to send us, let us know how well we did. Especially outside, this was amazing wealth of knowledge, especially with the amount of time that we have. We only have 2 hours, so we try to give you guys as much information as possible. We know that we can't do everything, but we want to make sure that you guys leave with enough knowledge to make sure you go on to the next step, and especially in your careers. So from there, I'll make sure that I also pop the link to the feedback survey into the chat as well. But I know we have a bunch of questions, especially ones that I recorded down for Osai to answer. But if anything, go ahead and still continue to pop in those questions. That way we can try to answer as many as possible. Osai, so there are a couple of questions that I want to ask you from the chat. Please, how can we get internships as beginners?
How can you get internships as beginners? Well, I do tell, I mean, aside from actively looking for internships, whether through volunteer opportunities or through, say, Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever job hosting platform, another way to sort of put your feelers out there for opportunities is to draft proposals for all the problems that glaring problems that you notice on business websites, business experience, your personal business experience, and how you can use UX to refine a company's business strategy. So there are, aside from actively volunteering, actively applying, you can also start to look for opportunities yourself and take the time to really propose something that will be that is compelling enough to have to offer you that sort of opportunity.
So I had a question about, how do you know when to create several journey maps for specific phases or different users within a large project? Or is there like an average of maps created depending on that?
So it really all depends on what the business goals are and which persona, because in many companies they have primary personas, secondary, tertiary personas, multiple personas. It's really a matter of identifying which persona that business wants to focus on potentially because of the potential ROI that that target audience might provide for, say, the sustainability of maybe a newer company. So it really, my answer to that is it really depends on how the scope is defined by the stakeholders and who they want to prioritize based off their business goals.
Gotcha. Okay, so this kind of leads into that just a little bit more. Can I use the journey map to indicate what not to do, like to show a company more visually what they should not do?
Well, when you point to, I think you can infer what not to do when you point to the opportunities that stakeholders should be prioritizing. So you are going to be creating an artifact that is evidence-based, that is the data points are directly supplied by your users. So you can point to, hey, this is what our users want. And we can infer that this is what our users are not prioritizing. In fact, it's not even in their periphery. So we ought not to spend the time and resources prioritizing X, for instance.
Got it. Okay. So this is more of a job question. When interviewing for UX positions, is journey mapping part of testing, generally speaking?
Journey mapping is not necessarily a part of testing. Testing comes in the evaluative research process, which follows the ideation and prototyping phase. Journey mapping, in reference to the double diamond where we pinned where exactly we want to define our goals, falls in the define phase. So this is well before we even start to think about testing our product with our target audience. So we go from generative research, where customer journey mapping falls under as part of how we define our research. Then we go into the design phase where we ideate and where we brainstorm ideas and we create the blueprint for our prototype. We map out its behavior. We create something fully. We then apply the visual design to it and we test it with actual users to then give us feedback to refine the product or service. So testing comes well after.
Mhm. But is that something that, like, if you're going in an interview, is that something that they're going to ask you to showcase uh in the interview?
So when you are interviewing, you are going to focus on what you want to highlight based off the role that you're applying for. If you are applying for a researcher position, you ought to have those personas in there, those stakeholder interviews. You ought to have your journey maps in there, your diary studies, your design principles that you've established that you are then going to potentially hand off to the UX designer at X organization. So it depends on the role that you are applying for, but in general, you want to make sure that you have an artifact that speaks to who exactly you're designing for and why and what the opportunities are. So the short end of that is it does not hurt to have a customer journey map in any deck.
Mhm.
I can go on and on about a UI designer role and how you might be influenced by a customer journey map that you can speak to, but ultimately you're going to focus on the visual language. And so we can have a separate workshop for that.
Yeah, that like for
Good question
everyone
though.
just yeah, for everyone tuning in, UX design is like a very broad spectrum of jobs that go into everything, go into the whole field to create great products and everything. So like even just with that, like we have like user researcher, we have UX we have UI designers and everything like that, people who do all the interviews and all that good stuff. So is there like a brief explanation of like, or is there like certain job roles specifically for customer journey mapping? Because I know one would be like user researcher, right?
User researcher and then product designers. Product designers are ought to be able to complete the design thinking process from start to finish, from research to design to from generative research to design to evaluative research, and rinse and repeat. So the short answer is yes, as a product designer, that should definitely be a part of your storytelling in whatever project that you're working on. And then as a even as a UX, I want to be careful here because some organizations will define UX very differently than others. And in this day and age, your best bet is to try to understand the end-to-end process so that you can really, once you have that breadth of knowledge and experience, you can then start to think about specializing. In the meantime, doesn't hurt to really understand the ins and outs of the different artifacts and research methods that inform the designs that are prioritized by these organizations.
Gotcha. Yeah, if anything, so when I was basically doing the part-time short course at GA, like my background was mainly like graphic design and all that stuff, like design book covers and all that good stuff. And once I actually got into UX design, I did not realize uh how many questions I was going to have to ask. So like even with asking open-ended questions, that was like a muscle that I definitely needed to try to flex. Is that along with that, is there any other muscles that you would say that people need to flex when they're even just going for this portion of UX design, not necessarily the UI portion of or graphic design portion, but mainly in this area? Like, are there any other muscles that they need to flex outside of like asking open-ended questions and stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think for any research, whether you're doing academic or industry research, it's really important to just really try to understand the group that you are designing for or creating a solution for or a service for. So really doing your due diligence, like having that curiosity to spend the time doing that secondary research. You're going to be doing primary research. You're going to be talking to users directly, but it really is helpful to do secondary research before diving into any project, because that'll give you a sense of what you're working with and what questions have already been answered through secondary research and what questions you ought to ask that haven't been answered, where a lot of the opportunities for businesses lie. So I would say curiosity, try to maintain an open mind and be open and be willing to pivot when your hypotheses or your hypotheses are invalidated. You went in with a certain goal in mind. You had a certain vision for your target audience, but then they told you otherwise. Be prepared to pivot. So having that sort of flexibility and that curiosity and approaching any research project with a beginner's mind, I think, is probably the best advice I could give any of my students or researchers in general.
Okay. I see we have more questions. There's one that I wanted to make sure I tackle because I see the chat like just going up and up. Why are service blueprints not used as much?
Service blueprints are used a lot. They're used they're used for a lot of social services. We use them in ed tech to really understand the system at play and the number of participants or users involved in any organization. So in product, you see more of the customer journey maps where we're focused on the users and specifically their journey. However, in services, we need to take into account all the moving parts, the number of people involved, the number of props, the number of places that we need to consider, the number of tools and resources that allow us to facilitate whatever service we're providing for our target audience. So service blueprints are used quite a lot, but more so in service design. And I haven't seen it as much in product design, but within ed tech, they're very, very beneficial. And within healthcare, they're very beneficial, obviously, because of the relationship between, say, patient and student and teacher and healthcare professional, and whatever tool is being used for the two to communicate, and for the two to and the two have to interface with, that is a touch point that is considered in the overall journey of the user and the provider or educator.
Gotcha. Okay. There is a question that I have my own opinion about it, but I want to get your take. What would you say is the best role for a content writer with some content design experience and journalism background? Honestly, I feel like user researcher, but you might have a different take.
No, I think that's a great answer. I think user researcher is a great role for someone with exceptional writing skills and storytelling. A lot of the data that you present and the data that you have to design, with the data visualization that you have to present for, for buy-in, requires good content strategy. So researcher is what I would think, and we're on the same page.
Yeah, just be prepared to ask a lot of questions and open-ended questions. Like even for me,
Exactly.
like with contextual, like I had to even learn how to take a step back on some things, because like I like to guide people through things, even like when we're getting like contextual analysis and stuff like that. And it's like trying to get people to actually use a Keurig to understand like how the coffee works, and you never fully think about um all the things that go into making coffee, just you're like actually listing out your steps.
Right.
Is there any time that you feel like you have to basically reset because of the fact, like the person I am, I like to guide and teach people through things. Is there anything in your field or in your background where you have to learn that you had to learn how to stop doing?
I think I had to encourage, whether it's with students or research participants, is to really encourage them to make mistakes, and inform them that if they are to make a mistake, there is not a problem with, essentially who they are, because, as participants or as students, there's a tendency to really personalize and assign, meaning to a potential like learning short, I don't want to call it a shortcoming, but a learning gap. So I encourage failure. I encourage experiential learning specifically. Go out there, make the mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and know how to, and then just have that sort of that grit and that mindset to bounce back and go back at it and try to solve the problem a different way. And the more times you can fail and make those mistakes, the more streamlined you will become in having a strategy that will essentially eventually solve the problem. But it's really a mindset. So encouraging failure, encouraging failure, and reassuring folks that there's nothing that's fundamentally wrong with them, that this is just a part of the learning journey. This is how we learn, through discomfort, through making mistakes, and just bouncing back and trying again.
Absolutely. With your
Jenny,
day-to-day
you
life.
want to fail. You want to fail. The
Oh,
idea is that you make those mistakes so that you have opportunities for future learning. So mistakes are just a different way. You just have to frame mistakes as opportunities for innovation and creativity. I'm sorry to cut you off, Jeremy. What were you saying?
No, you're good. Like if anything, like we want to make sure like the chat is engaged and all that good stuff. Like with your day-to-day life, the question for you is how do you make your job fun? Like I know like for me, I love my job. I love everything that I do, especially connecting with students and all that good stuff, making sure like I have a good work-life balance and all that good stuff. How do you achieve that for yourself?
I actually, I have a lot of fun teaching. I actually use design thinking in the classroom. I use service design as a way to refine my teaching strategies. So I collect behavioral and academic data, and then I try to address individual student needs and differences based off of learning gaps, based off behavioral inconsistencies or discrepancies. So I enjoy what I do because I am part researcher and then sometimes part like counselor slash therapist. So that's also really rewarding because
Yeah.
transitioning careers is it doesn't only pose an identity crisis, but it is a huge shift in the way you think and in the way you navigate work day to day. And it's a new discipline. So it requires a very little ego and in order to really succeed. So that comes with a huge, that takes an emotional toll on a lot of students. And so that is where really leading with empathy, leading with curiosity, and trying to understand, students' success language is really important because that's how you can really fill those knowledge gaps and fill those like emotional needs. So short end of that is I love my job. I have fun. I get to wear
And
two different
the
hats and then I get to refine curricula and or refine lessons based off a collective body of students' specific needs. So yeah.
yeah, I
What
use UX.
what about
Hmm?
you?
Honestly, I use UX design in my daily life a lot because I use it in my marriage. I use it in my friendships. I use it even just as a graphic designer, like to connect with clients and stuff like that. Like sometimes there are some moments where I'm like face palming and everything like that because I'm trying to get through a thought process. But one thing that I make it fun is like I've never seen as many sticky notes as I have right now in my life. But at the same time, it's almost like a game. It's like a game of strategy for me. It's like playing battleships
Mhm.
for me and everything like that. Like you're trying to like figure out the best way possible to tackle something. And it can be fun in a whole lot of ways, especially if you just realize like you don't have to take it so seriously.
Yeah.
Like if it's one of those things where you just constantly remind yourself, or I try if I'm going outside, like say if it's like an arcade game area or anything like that, I try not to put on that hat while I'm in a business because of the fact I just want to be there to have fun. So it's like also making sure I take a step back in order to make sure things are happening for myself and being in tune with everything that's going on around me versus always having that UX design hat on. Um, there are a couple of job questions that I do see in the chat that I want to make sure we tackle before time is up.
So
So the industry is changing and evolving, and when is it not?
yeah.
And the UX job market isn't what it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We have a seeming downturn. What is your impression of the current UX current job market, specifically entry level applicants? Do you think it's more or less saturated than other industries?
Um, yeah, I can't necessarily say whether it's more or less saturated than any other industry. What I do know is that this is an ever evolving, fast-paced industry. And with the introduction and essentially implementation of AI as our like day-to-day interns, things have really sped up. So you as an entry-level candidate are really required to not only come in with, say like a polished portfolio where you're able to story tell your design thinking process via whatever project. But you also need to be able to speak to how you can use AI to improve, research outcomes, design outcomes. And so it's really a matter, it's not necessarily, if you have sort of this defeatist mindset, I think every industry is daunting and can feel overwhelming. But if you approach any industry, especially a fast-paced and evolving industry with curiosity and grit and also the ability to really recognize the background skills that you come in with. I saw something in the chat about a gal who has a creative background, is really interested in user UX and is wondering if she should become a PM. And for someone like that, I would say, I think, it would be very helpful for you to focus on the design thinking process, really, really understand the practice, use your creativity in a number of ways for a number of years, really get your feet wet, and then think about managing people and facilitating design thinking activities for these groups of people. So all that's to say, I think that, yeah, I think that it's worth the effort, and it is rewarding, especially if you get into a field that you're particularly passionate about. I went into UX specifically interested in ed tech, given my education background, given my research background, and so I was fixed on this specific industry. So if you have background knowledge, if you come from a background in healthcare and in visual design, in finance, really know really know what you have in your sort of repertoire or arsenal of professional and personal skills, because that'll really help you think about how to tackle this new industry and identity to an extent.
Absolutely. Like I think so full transparency, even my background, I originally started off as an English education major. Wanted to teach English,
I just go for it.
especially yeah. So like now it's like, but honestly, I made that pivot like my senior year of college in order to like flip that whole thing around. And also that was around the time they were just introducing the UX design program. So luckily for GA, like after I graduated, luckily GA was here for that and I could learn UX design afterwards. But I think for a lot of people who are trying to get into this role and figure out their path and everything like that, even just with understanding your how to even connect and get a job out here is definitely an interesting market and everything like that for a lot of different roles in a lot of different industries. But one thing that I will always encourage is always having your portfolio polished and ready. And I know like Osai, you definitely agree with that because the one thing that's going to help you stand out is making sure your portfolio stands out and doesn't look like it's just a generalized thing. You kind of want to become a expert in the thing that you're pursuing, or even if it's just like being able to research and everything like that, or if it's UI design, it's UI design. So what are you, I would say what are your tips even just for making sure people are ready?
I think just to kind of touch on what you said, there's always a hunt for talent. I mean, there are companies that are specifically looking for entry-level candidates because they want someone malleable. They want someone that is more open to, they're more flexible, right? That have the skills. So if you really take the time to sharpen your UX skills, and you will be able to differentiate yourself from the masses, because if we just think about all these applicants on a bell curve, like there's a very small percentage that are excellent. And there is a huge number that are mediocre, let's be honest. And then there's obviously, some other folks that maybe it's not something they're entirely invested in. So if you are willing to put the time in, the effort, and sort of cultivate that mindset of growth, of iterating on your work constantly via feedback, just being open to feedback in general, which actually segues nicely into this next point, into answering your next question. What is really needed is an evidence-based approach to your career strategy. So if you are constantly taking the feedback that you were collecting from senior level designers, folks on ADP that are seasoned and know what they're doing, and they're willing to mentor you, and they're giving you feedback on a said project, and you are speaking to not just one person, but a handful of seasoned designers, and you're getting all this feedback, and you're synthesizing that feedback, and you are focusing on the themes that come up and refining your work based off of that. You are using the design thinking process to refine your career strategy and the product that you put forth. So if you are strategic about your approach, if you are, there's a methodology in place and you're willing to do the work, you're gonna land the job. Like, I don't think anyone's ever walked away from an entry-level candidate that was great, right? There's always room for greatness.
Absolutely. Like another thing that that I want to touch on before we head on out of here. I know we're a little bit over time.
Best
One thing that, huh?
There's a question in the chat. What portfolio sites, if any, do you recommend for UI design applicants? I do recommend Best Folios. UX Collective is great. Also, Dribble. Look at all the examples on Dribble. Like some of the best designers' work is featured there. So
Exactly. Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to touch on. Like if you ever like one thing you need to work on also is building your brand. Like there's a brand that is you that you are selling to the company that you're trying to apply for and everything. And even if you're looking for jobs, like even Dribble has jobs on their website. So go to dribble.com to see what they have as far as jobs are concerned. And then on top of that, if you ever need inspiration or anything like that, to see what's out there, even just as far as like what's happening in UX or what's happening in like branding or any landing pages, those types of things that you can incorporate for yourself, you could definitely check out dribble.com and go from there. Make it happen for yourself. If anything, thank you guys for being here with us. I know we're a little bit over time, but I wanted to make sure I thanked you, Osai, for your amazing knowledge, for being able to answer all these wonderful questions, especially from our wonderful attendees and students. Thank you, Dribble, for partnering with us on this event. And also, this was recorded, so you guys will receive a copy of that recording. The only thing that we ask is that you just fill out the feedback survey and just give us a little feedback to let us know how well we did. If anything, I will definitely see you guys later. We'll have more free classes. Just make sure you also check out ga.co. And also make sure you're following Osai on her LinkedIn page and anywhere that you are able to connect with her or anything like that. Because I'm sure she would love to hear from you and sure that she would love to connect with you. Until next time, thank you guys.